Ladies and gentlemen, hello, welcome back to another video. We're going to be talking about something today that we haven't spoken about in quite a while. And when I say quite a while, I'm talking over a year. Now, this something that we haven't spoken about is actually the something that kickstarted my YouTube in the first place. It is the topic I made my first video on, and you all seem to love the coverage back then. Because I'm going to be honest, it's a game that was an absolute disaster of a Kickstarter. And I covered its failures on a weekly basis because, yes, somehow they managed to fail week after week to do basically anything. And of course, we are talking about DreamWorld. Now, as many of you will know, DreamWorld started out as a Kickstarter MMO that advertised itself as the everything game. You name it. You want to do something, you can do anything. Infinite world, millions of players in one world. There was a lot of claims there, and as people will remember, as you'll see on screen now, this was the original Kickstarter video. And I made my first video pointing out, because I realized a lot of people didn't know this, that everything in that Kickstarter trailer was just Unreal Engine asset store assets. And of course, how can we forget the meme of the main character running around just being the Unreal Engine 4 mannequin, the template mannequin. Now, if you followed me through that journey of covering DreamWorld week after week, you would know that something bizarre started to happen. Now, you'll remember that these guys, to begin with, weren't game developers. They'd never developed or worked on a game, which made this claim of what this was going to be even more absurd. Slowly and surely, week by week, over about 2.5 years, they didn't vanish with the money. They actually kept updating the game, adding new things, and slowly adding the things that were promised, which I think we were all surprised about, because everything made it seem like they would just take the money from the Kickstarter and disappear. We've seen it hundreds of times. This happens on a daily basis on Kickstarter. Promise something incredibly tantalizing and out of scope, raise a lot of money from the community while showing nothing, and then disappear. But like I say, they started to do things week by week that actually worked towards some semblance of a game. And it reached a point after 2 years where I said, okay, I can see that they are actually trying, and they actually do care about making this game. And I said in that last video that I don't believe that they were actually intending to scam anyone. I think it was just incompetence entering into a new sort of space. The game development scene. And while that's still not great that they entered like that, they did actually make improvements to the game. In one of my weekly videos, I would point out a major flaw and why something just doesn't work, or how something should work. And in the next week's update, they would fix that. And this started to happen week after week repeatedly. And I had a bit of a tough choice to make back then, which was, do I continue to make videos on DreamWorld weekly and kind of unfairly punish them as they're actually making steps in the right direction? Or do I do the fair thing and, because they're making progress, step back and basically let them cook? And I chose to step back and let them cook. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to me covering these sorts of games or scams or whatever, I do like to be objective about them. I really do. And this, of course, means that if they are making meaningful progress, steps in the right direction, the best outcome is that they keep doing that, and the people who back the game get something cool, right? They get something. Because the other alternative is they get basically nothing. And at this point, I would like the people that backed it to actually get something close to what they paid for. And today's video is where this has taken a bit of a spin into the bizarre realm. Because, like I say, I kind of stepped away for a year. And when I did that, I promised you guys, and I actually promised the DreamWorld team, that I would check in from time to time, and I would kind of still help hold them accountable. That sounds like a really righteous way to put it, but you know what I mean. Basically, just check on how things are going, if it's progressing at all. Before we continue, Scars of Honor, the old school MMO, is currently having a test phase for their recently added features. Diving to the Morning Pass, their first battleground, Choose between 3 currently available classes and duel it out. Loot soul jars from chests or the bodies of your fallen enemies. Drop them off at control points and convert them into victory points to secure the win in this fast-paced 5v5 brawl. Start off with the same gear as everybody else and work your way up to being an absolute killing machine by looting gear from the chests scattered around the battleground, or by completely embarrassing your opponents with your godly PvP skills. Each battleground is completely unique thanks to the dynamically spawned random events during the war, so each battleground feels fresh. The gameplay is a fantastic balance of MOBA and domination gameplay, so there's something there for everybody. This test phase comes with a complete combat overhaul to the Mage, Ranger and Knight classes, so there's plenty to test over the next few days. And not to mention the game has received a complete graphical overhaul to go along with the new additions. So what are you waiting for? Dive into the test phase using the link in the description or pinned comment. So first things first, while I haven't made a video in about a year, I have actually spoken to Zach and Garrison multiple times over the last year, just checking in, seeing what they're up to, how things are going, and it's actually been kind of cool to get to chat to them and get to talk about things that they've never publicly spoken about. In fact, things that they've shied away from and the reasons why they've avoided interviews in the past. And I'm just going to quickly drop a teaser. It's not even a teaser at this point. It's just a full-on reveal. I have actually got Garrison to agree to have an interview with me. And to clarify, no, this is not some sort of cock-polishing operation. This isn't like, here's your chance to advertise DreamWorld. This is actually going to be an interview where it's kind of no holds barred, right? Asking the questions, not about the game now, specifically. There will be some, obviously, but we're going all the way back to the beginning. Having a discussion and an interview, asking the questions that you guys have been asking for years, because it's honestly just an absolute enigma, the whole DreamWorld saga. So leave a comment down below if you've got a question that you want asked in this interview, because it hasn't been recorded yet, but I am collecting questions for it. So when I was talking to Garrison about 6 months ago, I said, what is it that you want DreamWorld to be remembered for? Like, what is the one big thing that you expect people to tell their friends about and to be like, this thing's really cool? You know, the thing you go to sleep at night, you wake up, and that's the thing that drags you back into the game. And he says, well, the building. You know, our game's all about building. And I said, okay, well, if I'm being honest, the building is pretty atrocious. You're not really working with this building system. You're actually just fighting against it 90% of the time. And personally, I would go to sleep and wake up the next morning and I wouldn't want to touch it again. That would be my reason not to play. And I was pretty brutally honest about it. And he said, okay, well, we're going to work on that. And I just thought, cool, you know, just lip service. And I thought nothing of it. Well, they've recently released their game on Steam in a kind of open alpha for everybody to actually go and test. Oh, and by the way, another big revelation here. They actually refunded anyone who had ever paid for the game. Like, everyone. Everybody was offered a refund. Fully. And could still keep the game. Which I think is commendable. And a pretty big, dangerous step to take. But I also think it was the right thing to do. And I guess it kind of shows their commitment to making this game. I reached out to them and I was like, hey, can I have a couple of keys so me and my moderators can jump in and test it before it goes like publicly live? I was like, because I want to check in on it. They gave me some keys and me and a few bros jumped in, and I don't know how to say this without it sounding like sarcasm or without it sounding like I've just transcended to another realm or reality. Their building system now is weirdly the best building system that I have used in any large-scale multiplayer game. And I'm not just saying that. After that conversation where they said they were going to go work on it, I expected minimal changes and for it to probably get somewhere near to the building system in Enshrouded or Valheim, or, you know, get close to it, but never quite as good. Some of my moderators are heavily into playing basically exclusively building games, or games that have base building as a core feature. And even they were pretty astonished at how good the building system is. Now, I didn't record us playing together on that evening because I honestly didn't think a video was really going to come out of this. I thought it was just going to be a test it, see how it's going, have a little look around, and I'm actually kind of proud of them because it is now actually a game. And they have people that are logging in every day, playing every day, and just genuinely enjoying it, which I genuinely never thought would happen. I honestly never thought it would happen. Some of the things that they promised early on that just didn't seem like they were going to be able to do it because of lack of experience and lack of any sort of game design reasons to do it, they've actually managed to do. And one of them, which people pointed out early on, and I myself did the same, is the fact that the game was promised to be an infinite world, and it just objectively wasn't. And it seemed to most of us that it was from a lack of skill, a lack of development experience, and that sort of stuff. Well, as of about 6 months ago, they released a video, which you're seeing in the background now, of them flying through a procedurally generated infinite world for 12 hours straight. And I asked why 12 hours, and they said, oh, our YouTube isn't, they haven't hit the right subscriber amount and whatnot, so they're limited to a 12-hour video. The world isn't infinite, right? I want to make that clear, but it's only infinite in the same sense as Minecraft, which is basically infinite. It's one of them things where a player is going to have to walk for years to get to the end of the infinitely generating terrain. So, as far as is practical, yeah, it's an infinite world, which is kind of impressive, just because of the way the rest of the thing works. I didn't think they'd be able to do it. They have, somehow. Now, the next thing is, I can't even give them credit for this one, if I'm being honest. I feel like they fell off a cliff and landed on their feet with this one. Like, this feels like they just got lucky. And I thought about this a while back. The main problem that DreamWorld was having, and we saw it every single week with every single update, the game lagged to high hell because of one thing. And that was the amount of assets that were being spawned in, built by players just everywhere, right? It was just an absolute memory, like a graphical memory overload. And there was no way around this, really. It was just a problem that was always going to exist. Well, they fortunately went with Unreal Engine, and Unreal Engine 5 released. A lot of you may know this. Unreal Engine 5 released with a beautiful piece of technology called Nanite. And what does Nanite do? Well, it only renders geometry that is visible to the camera. For those who don't know, you might be thinking, well, duh, that's how that works. But I'm not just talking on a, asset to asset basis. It only renders the tiny triangles that the mesh is made up out of these, thousands of triangles. It only renders the triangles on that mesh that are visible. The rest of them just are not loaded into memory. And that's massive, because this means that, well, if you've seen the demos of Nanite in Unreal Engine, you'll know that their demos consist of splattering millions of assets across a big plane all over the place, and it's still running as if there's only just one in the scene. Now, there's no way they could have known that this was coming, because nobody knew that this was coming. But they have definitely fallen and landed on their feet with this one, because this is exactly what DreamWorld needed to be able to be performant. And my God, the difference it's made. You can now run around the world, the assets are all there, and they've even, some players have even built the Eiffel Tower to scale in the world out of, I wanted to say tens of thousands of assets that are all loaded in at once because of Nanite. So yeah, they've got that working now. Oh, and while we're on about that, because of moving to Unreal Engine 5, they also just did a full graphical overhaul. So that, like, hideous Fortnite style, like, that mishmash of every type of art style all together is gone. And they've actually done a full graphical overhaul to this kind of it's not like a photorealistic art style. It's like a high fantasy realism, if that makes sense. I think from looking at it, you'll get what I mean by it. My God, it looks so much better than, well, that. Now, there is another thing that they've done that is, I don't want to use the word controversial, but I'm very torn on it. And it's this, their AI generation for models. Now, to clarify, they aren't using AI generated models for the game, you know, for the actual base game. They have actually got now an art team that has gone through and made all the assets from scratch, like for the art style they're going for. So I just want to clarify that. They're not actually using AI to make the game. But what they have added is an item called the DreamForge, where you can type a prompt in and use Dream Essence, which is just a free item that you can gather in the game, like a rare resource. And it'll take 2 to 3 minutes. And when you come back, the DreamForge will have created this, basically a 3D model of what you prompted. And I wish I'd recorded me initially testing this, because one thing that I did do, and I'll show you an example, is I prompted it to make a pink praying mantis, like a, what's it even called, an orchid mantis, as it's my little mascot that's currently sat over there because he won't stay on the back of my chair. I did that as just a test, and I really didn't expect it to do anything. Because here's the thing, I have used 3D model AI to test it. I've tested it because I like to keep up to date and know what's going on with AI, as I know it's a kind of touchy subject, and I want to understand it for when I'm making videos on it. Now, I'm going to be clear here. I think AI is potentially killing the job market for games. And this is another video that will be made at some point, because while I do a lot of consulting for game companies, I don't really have the opportunity to talk about those specific experiences because of NDA and confidentiality through my company. But while I'm not able to talk about companies and games in specific, I can talk about something that I've been seeing a lot of recently, which is game companies are genuinely replacing staff. Not so much replacing them, but never hiring them in the first place because they are just using AI from the get-go. Models, textures, code, music, sound effect, you name it, the lot. And like I say, that's going to be another video entirely, but I do feel that that is killing the game development industry, especially the indie scene, sort of. Again, I will leave that for another video, but a lot of people hate AI, and it is completely understandable why. I am very much in the same camp as those people. I've seen it just be completely harmful for the industry. However, what DreamWorld are doing, I feel it kind of falls into the realm of okay, because they're not asking the users to pay to use this AI, they're just footing the bill for it, and these are just user-generated models for in the game. Now, I'm going to be honest, when I saw this and when I was told about this, I did say to the DreamWorld guys, I was like, you are going to have to be very careful with this. I said, because we all know that AI can go south pretty quickly. It can become a disaster overnight. And they're obviously aware of the implications of this, which is why you can only see your own 3D generated models, and they're only currently stored on your PC. Because although they have guardrails in place to stop things like 18+ content, hate content, racism, you know, all that sort of stuff. Like, they are being very cautious with testing this, which I think is the right thing to do. I'm going to be honest, when I tested it, it's really cool. It works way better than any of the other, like, 3D model AIs that I've tested. And I kind of want your guys' opinion on this, because I feel this is, when it comes to AI, kind of a grey area that I've not heard people discuss too much. Because at the end of the day, it's not taking jobs away from people, because it's not replacing a job, right? The people that are making the game aren't using the AI to make it, they are handcrafting the assets. So that's fine. But then there's the AI generation for users, which again, the alternative to that would be, well, nothing, right? So I guess you can't really say that the AI is being harmful in a sense of taking away or denying somebody of a job that would have been there. It's not replacing a job. So yeah, I don't know how people are going to, I don't actually know how this is going to be received, the AI side of this. But hey, I guess it means that they did fulfill their promise of you can build anything you want in the game now. So yeah, kudos, you got me there. But yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a quick update on the kind of surprising revelation of how far DreamWorld has actually come. And I'm definitely going to be making a more of a deep dive video onto what's happened with DreamWorld in the last year or two. Especially when I actually fix my graphics card. It's currently got one dead fan on it, and I'm waiting for the new fans to arrive. So yeah, that's what's happening with that. So yeah, that's the update on DreamWorld. I guess I'll catch you guys in the next one, and until then, take care.